Right, Richard, well, just a short video with you guys today, just focusing on these machines. We're back out with yourselves and Corfields, out in the sunny weather, and conditions are finally dried up a bit for us. So just remind us, who is yourself and what is your relationship with Corfields?
I'm Richard Relph. I'm the area sales manager for Lemken in the UK here in the southwest. Morris Corfield have been a dealer with Lemken for over 50 years, and they would be our biggest dealer in the southwest of England.
And what are we doing here today?
So we're looking at 4 machines in the field, 2 drills, a press and a cultivator.
Right.
So we'll start with the cultivator. This is the Karat 10, our recent model. It comes in various sizes from 3 meters up to 7.5. Auto reset or shear bolt. This particular model is mounted 3 meters wide, auto reset. The main feature of a Karat is the interchangeable legs. The reason for the legs is it makes the Karat the most universal machine that Lemken make. So by using points with wings, we can work very shallow and very flat. Quite unique to Lemken, even though we have auto reset on this leg, we still have a shear bolt. The shear bolt has 2 positions on the leg and 2 positions on the frame, which gives us 4 rake angles. So we can run it very flat for very shallow cultivation, and we can run it very aggressively if it's hard conditions and we need to get in a bit deeper. So the main feature which is different on the Karat is that we have interchangeable legs. As I said, we go from shallow to deep, and we can do that by removing the wings, which would give us a deep working point, or we have this quick release system on the legs, which only requires a tool and potentially a hammer. So that's now the wide point for shallow work removed. The narrow point for deep work fitted, and it's as quick as that. A 4 meter machine probably takes about 15 minutes for one person to do. We do 3 point sizes, the 100 millimeters, the 80 millimeters, and we also do a 60 millimeters, which at its most aggressive setting will be around about 32 centimeters deep. So after we've moved the soil, we need to level the area that we're working. This machine has got leveling discs on it. You can also use what one calls a hockey stick, which is basically a bent piece of metal. We can have them auto reset or rigid as shear bolt as before. On the outside, this has got working discs to bring the soil that is removed out by the cultivator back into work. You can also put side shields on. There's a choice on the mounting machines of hydraulic depth or manual depth setting. This machine's got hydraulic depth, as you can see. Moving back to the roller, Lemken probably has the widest choice of rollers of any manufacturer. This particular roller is a deep profile. That means that there's a sharp edge which consolidates to depth, so we're quite happy to work 8-9 inches deep with this roller. The shoulders then consolidate the surface. If the machine is going to be used predominantly for shallow work, we would use a roller that is better at consolidating shallow work rather than this deep roller. So we'll move on to the combi drill now. Lemken does combi drills from 3 meters to 6 meters. 3 and 4 meters are available in rigid. 4, 4.5 and 6 can be folding. This is a folding model. The unique thing about Lemken combinations that are folding is that we carry the tank on the back, whether it's 4, 4.5 or 6 meters. The reason we were able to do that is that the construction of the power harrow, the strength is in the bed, and therefore we don't need any extra superstructure to make the bed rigid for work, and when it folds up it allows us to have 1.4 meters gap in between, which gives us the opportunity to put this 1850 litre tank. The settings on the power harrow are quite simple. We can change the direction of travel for working in different conditions simply by undoing bolts here and operating this turn screw, which takes a jockey pulley from one gear to the next, hence just reversing the flow. So the gearbox doesn't actually drive any of the main gears, it drives a jockey wheel, which means it makes it a bit simpler. Maintenance wise, if we have a failure in any of the rotors, it's a very simple job. one removes this cap, there's a nut under there, remove the nut, beat the shaft out, change the bearing, put it back in again, and that can all be done in field conditions. Settings on the machine: the depth of the power harrow is done by pulling this pin out, moving this slide across, which is on a ladder, and the ladder, staircase, whatever, allows you for 1/2 inch increments. The levelling board at the back here is simply moved by putting a spanner on here, taking the weight off the pin and moving that. All Lemken power harrow drill combinations come with a trapeze packer. The reason for the trapeze packer is that it carries the weight of the machine on the trapeze rings, which means very little is ran on the barrel. And as you can see, this barrel has done 250 acres, I believe, and it's still got paint on because the scrapers are not in contact with it. The reason we run it like this is that the trapeze rollers are 150mm spacing, and that's exactly the same spacing as our drill setting at the back. The drill has a double disc coulter. The reason we run a double disc coulter is that you've got everything is moving in unison, so you have very little friction between the coulter and the ground. The coulter system is held together with a parallelogram. This parallelogram, when it runs in square, as we are here shown, its dynamic means that all it wants to do is drive into the ground. Because of that, and the double disc, we only need a very small disc pressure in order to get it to work in the ground. Depth adjustment is done by the relationship between this wheel and the disc. So if the wheel is 1 inch off the ground on concrete, or 24mm off the ground on concrete, it means the drilling depth is 24mm. The function of the wheel also is that after seeding into the prepared ground by the trapeze packer, this wheel consolidates and gives you good seal to sole contact. Finally, at the back of the machine, it is optional to have harrows. These are the more expensive hydraulic harrows in sections, but we can also fit individual harrows. So the seeding mechanism, which we'll have a look up at the front here underneath the tank. Calibration tray comes out, drops down. We open the calibration area by lifting that up, and then the calibration tray simply slides underneath here. On a 4-metre machine, we have 4 metering heads. That allows us to cut off a quarter of the machine, which gives us a section control of 4 units on a 4-metre machine. The calibration is done by choosing the correct number of wheels according to the kilos per hectare and engage them, and when the shaft drives, the wheels rotate, drop the seed down into the tray for calibration or into the airflow for drilling. So as we said, there's a 1850 litre tank here. Lemken has started fitting a step now to ease access to the tank, so we can step on the tank, step up, and there's a safety bar here, which means the lid will not come down as long as that's engaged. In the tank we have a grid for filtering the seed through, and at the bottom of each tank there is a low level sensor.
So this front press you're running today, Richard, isn't your latest model?
No, this is the VarioPack FEPK. K in Lemken language is for clapper, and clapper is the German for folding. So right. Anything with a Lemken moniker that says K is a folding machine. This press was developed probably about 15 or 20 years ago, and with the advent of automatic steering, GPS steering on tractors, we've actually improved the system, and we've developed a new press which is specifically been developed for use with GPS steering.
Right. Okay.
So the rings are the same. That's the forged rings, which are fairly, Lemken is well known for those. One of the beauties of the Lemken press is that the only blockage in the visibility of the system is the axle is here, and the presses are all completely open. So when we lift the machine up and we fold it, you've still got very good vision to the front. Likewise, a 4-metre press could actually be turned into a 6-metre press simply by bolting more of these rings onto the outside, or a 6-metre press can be turned into a 3-metre press by removing all of the rings except for the 3 meters in the middle. Yeah. So it's a very versatile and universal system. Final machine we're going to look at this afternoon is the new DT. So the Solitair DT comes in 3 formats: 4 meter, which we have here, 6 meters and 9 meters. We can have single tank, split tank 2, or you can have a third seed hub on the machine to give you 3 different materials to be sown. This machine we have here is a 4 meter, and it's the simplest format we can probably provide. It's simply discs, tyre packer and seed bar. We can add to the front of the machines either a full tyre packer, a full levelling system, or on the wider machines we can run outrigger wheels just to support them, to stop them yawing. There are 2 disc systems we supply. The one we have fitted here is the wavy disc. Basically this wavy disc creates a cultivated area about 25 millimeters wide, and like the trapeze packer on the combi units, it's directly in front of the seeding discs of the toolbar. So we're creating a strip of cultivated soil which we then drilling into. The second type of disc is the traditional scalloped and angled disc, which we know from traditional min-till systems. We can swap from one system to the other quite quickly. 2 people, it takes about 2.5 hours to go from the wavy disc to the scallop disc. So both systems are available. The reason I like this particular system is here today we're working minimal tillage into a field that has been a failed field, as we've got a lot of this year, which has been carotted, and then we're min-tilling into it. Next week we're taking the machine into a grass field and we're going to stitch some grass in with it, and in July we're going to a legume lay where the field has a problem with ryegrass, and we're going to use it because we will only be cultivating a 25 millimeter strip, which means we're minimal disturbance. So the idea behind this drill is it's very universal in what we can do. We can go from direct drilling right the way through to working on ploughed ground. So calibration wise, Lemken is developing some new systems for calibration. Each drill comes with 2 sets of calibration cassettes for the products you're using. So if you do a lot of oilseed rape and cereals, you would have this small set for oilseed rape, and the set that are in there has got 8 units, which gives us up to 200 kilos per hectare. The way that this operates, pull the step down, climb up inside. Unfortunately, because we've got seeding here, we can't just whip it out, but the cassette that's on here is unscrewed, pulled out, the new cassette goes back in, gets screwed up, and then you're ready to change your seed. It's a 2-minute operation to go from cereals to rape or vice versa. So calibration is quite easy. We can fit the tray underneath the calibration tubes. Calibration can be done either from the cab using the terminal. All our drills now come with isobus. This particular drill is hooked up to the class isobus system, and so there is no Lemken terminal in the cab. We can either use the app to calibrate it, or a small, again, looks a bit like a mobile phone. There is a small unit that can be mounted here for calibration purposes. So you'll notice that there's quite a large gap between the discs and the wheels. The reason for that is that when we work with fertilizer machines, we can fit either fertilizer discs in here. Behind there we run a wide tyre packer. The tyres are staggered, so they help clean themselves. We also run cleaners on the tyres, and all of our machines come with air brakes. Moving back again, on this machine there is a bit of a gap between the wheels and the seeding bar, but that's because there are 3 versions of accessories we can fit in here if required. So the first one is quite simply a tine bar which removes the hillocks between the tyres and just knocks those flat. The second one is a slightly more aggressive full width time bar. And then the third one is a new style rubberized trapeze packer. What we found is that in most conditions, adding the trapeze packer to get the good seed soil contact aids with germination and aids with the early stages of growth, and so we offer that in here again with the trapeze rings at the same distance apart as the seeding wheels. So now on the DT we have quite a new style seeding mechanism. We still use the double disc coulter. We now use discs that are directly in line with each other, but we also use an internal bearing. The internal bearing reduces the blockage between the sets of discs. The other thing about Lemken bearings, which is not unique but very special, is that wherever we can we use double bearings. The reason for that is that a double bearing on this particular part here will last for roughly 2 discs. The old single bearing, as we used to use and other people use, we found only lasted for part of the life of a disc. So we use double bearings in order to improve the longevity. As I said, this is the new drill bar system. We still have the parallelogram, we still have the double disc, and we still have the tyre packer. Where the DT version differs, or the OptiDisc as this is termed, is that we have 2 versions. This is the mechanical disc, and the pressure comes from this spring and it's altered by this cam here, and the other version is a hydraulic one where basically there's a tube like this across the width of the machine which has pistons to each unit, and that gives us a much greater ability to get higher disc pressures. So in very much heavy land conditions where you need a bit more pressure.
Well, it's slowly getting warmer, so we'll let you go and get a drink anyway, Richard, after all that talking.
We've got some field to
well, and that.
We've got some field to do.
And the rest of that.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah, no, cheers for having us, and yeah, we'll let you crack on.